Hello and welcome to Hypothetically Speaking for the Solano College Sports Network. I'm your host, Stephen Babb. So with this show, we like to talk about sports topics that have happened and what we'd like to see happen in a hypothetical sense. Today I'm joined by Brandon Kyle, Nate McKay, and Chad Core. So we'll go over Major League Baseball, the Wild Card games today and tomorrow. We'll also talk about preview for the NBA season, and we'll get into a little bit of an NFL discussion and talk about the exciting season that's been through 4 weeks. So, Brendan, I'm going to start with you. The wild card games and the tiebreakers yesterday. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, you got to love MLB this season with all these things happening. In the NL, you have 2 different divisions that are going to the 163rd game to figure out the seeding of the playoffs. Now you have the Cubs taking on the Rockies, who won that game and is moving on here. And, it's going to be tough. I feel like the Cubs really have to rely on their pitcher. They got John Lester in there, and all I know, he's not going to blow anything away. He's really solid in the playoffs. I think he had a 187 ERA last season in the playoffs. The Rockies definitely have more going on as far as their bullpen and their bench, but I think, with Holt's proven stability in the playoffs, it's going to be good for the Cubs. As far as the Yankees and the A's, styles make fights. You got to love that these are 2 different teams. They are built from the core differently, and the players are completely different type of players. You have the Yankees, who spend a lot of money on big names, big aces, right? And then you got the A's, who are just that. We're doing it by the numbers. We're going to listen to the numbers. We're going to listen to the analytics. We're going to trust that process, and we're going to play that way. So, you got that powerhouse team, and they're going over to their home turf. And, the thing with a lot of power is you got pressure to connect. So, if the Yankees get behind a little bit, they're swinging and missing. All of a sudden, the pressure, those fans can turn real quick. So, you got to play well early if you're the Yanks. I think get out ahead. You got the bats to do it. I think, their whole lineups hit 20 jacks at least the whole season, right? So you got to get out there ahead and get the A's reeling. Otherwise, it could be a long night for them out there.
It could be. So let's kind of switch focus over to the National League. Nate, what are you seeing from these matchups in the National League?
For the Cubs and the Rockies, you look at them. Chicago coming off losing that division tiebreaker. Colorado as well. They're losing that division tiebreaker as well. Now you look at those 2 teams, you realize that Colorado, they got to travel from Los Angeles to Chicago. Chicago has been sleeping well in their hometown, ready to go, well rested. Meanwhile, Colorado, they got to fly over to Chicago, getting ready for that series. It's going to be a tough one. You look at John Lester, he's been there before. He's been there not once, not twice, but 3 times. He's ready to go. He's well experienced. He knows how to fight these games as well. And then you look at Colorado, come to this game with their 3rd best in the ERA in the entire Major League Baseball since September 1st. That's incredible right there, if you ask me.
Absolutely. Now, my only concern with John Lester going for them is his outing in 2014 in the wild card game with the A's, and he really didn't do very well. And that, I definitely think he's matured a lot since then. It's been 4 seasons, and I definitely think he actually has a good shot of making an impact in the game later on today. Chad, what are your thoughts, what you've seen so far?
Joe Madden has been there before, just like John Lester, winning the World Series 2 years ago with the Chicago Cubs and being there multiple times with the Tampa Bay Rays. He's going to keep a short leash on him if he's not doing well, which he might not. The Colorado Rockies have an incredible lineup up and down, hit a lot of home runs. With the A's and the Yankees, Brandon pointed on it earlier, it's small ball versus big ball. It's analytics versus star aces. That's why the A's are going to go with Liam Hendricks in this start. They're going to try to keep the Yankees on their toes early, try to keep them off balance. The A's, they caught fire early in July, and they haven't seemed to be slowing down. I think whoever wins this game is going to go far in the postseason push.
Yeah, I agree. And I was actually talking with Susan Slusser earlier, and she shared a column with me that she wrote for the Chronicle, and she kind of, highlighted that this is probably going to be a full bullpenning game for the A's, which means they're going to go with what's called an opener as opposed to a starter. Now, they also have Austin Jackson Yes, Austin Jackson, that's available to maybe go in the second inning. It's not something he's done before as a starter, but he does have a great record since he came over to the A's. So what do you, Brandon, I'll go with you. What do you think about having a full bullpenning game?
I think this is an interesting strategy, and this is that type of game, and you have to look at what type of game this is. This is unlike any one game you're going to play in the whole season. It's all or nothing here. So I think that they're going to do the gauntlet effect. They're going to put everything they have out there. It's win or nothing. I don't think they have anybody that can go out there and blow it away and start, as opposed to the Yankees, who are going to go with their ace, who has been struggling of late, but they feel like he's getting back on track. So like I said, this is a debate, if this is going to be an effective strategy or not. I think that they've done it in the past and they made it work. So, I think this is their best bet for this game.
Yeah, I agree. Nate, who do you think is going to come out ahead maybe earlier in the game? Like, who do you see is getting off to a faster start?
With them, honestly, it would probably most likely be the A's, in my opinion, because like you said, it's going to be a tough one, in my opinion, with the Yankees and the A's, because you look at the Yankees, Luis Severino, I believe, he's going to bring that powerhouse that the Yankees want, but overall in general, I feel like the A's have enough hitting power to fight back and bring that sort of underdog presence, what many people are not really much expecting from them, but can bring that into that first game against the Yankees as well.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the hitting power. I actually wrote up a quick article a couple weeks ago on the A's hitting and how if they're not really hitting home runs, they're not really winning any games. So I definitely think the long ball is going to play a big part in this game. If you kind of subtract home runs from the A's hitting, they're only hitting 222 this season, which means they don't play a lot of small ball. They have trouble moving runners around, which has kind of been the theme this year, I think, in baseball in general. It's all about the long ball, and then everybody else is striking out. They're hitting into shifts, which a shift, I think, is really knocking down a lot of batting averages. So, Chad, what do you think about the home run aspect of the AL Wild Card game? I mean, the Yankees just set a record for most home runs in a season. I believe they're at 267, breaking the previous record by the Mariners of 264. And the A's, actually, they're not far right behind something, I think 212, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But what do you think about the home runs in this game?
You took the words right out of my mouth. If the A's are a power hitting team, the Yankees are the next step above them. If you look up and down their lineup, they don't hit for a whole lot of average either. Aaron Judge, the big power hitting right-hander, he hits for a decent average, but Gary Sanchez, Giancarlo Stanton, Didi Gregorius, none of them really have that high batting average. They play a lot of small ball too. I think it's the new Yankee Stadium, that short porch in right field. I think that'll favor the A's a lot more. They have a lot more left-handed hitting up and down the lineup. The Yankees don't. Their big power hitters are right-handed guys. And like I said earlier, and Brandon said, Luis Severino had a great start to the season, a Cy Young kind of start, and unfortunately he just hasn't kept that going. His ERA has skyrocketed over this second half of the season, and I think the A's will get to him early. The A's are a hot team right now. They have been hot, and I think they're going to go into Yankee Stadium and get the W.
Okay, so that kind of leads into the next phase of this, the hypothetically speaking part. So who do you think's moving on in the NL and AL, Chad?
In the NL, I think it's going to be the Dodgers. They've been there. They've won 6 division titles. They seem to struggle as it gets later into the postseason. But the Rockies are a young team. John Gray is going to make his first start. Nolan Arenado's never been there. Trevor Story's never been there. I think the Dodgers are going to win in the NL.
Okay, and what about you, Nate? What are your thoughts?
For the National League, if you look at them, with the Dodgers, there's nothing can go wrong for them, in my opinion. I think they'll win that game easily, no problem. And then for the American League, I definitely will see a lot of fighting between the Yankees and A's. And overall, I feel like the A's will get this one in a big shutout if they can.
And Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I gotta agree with Nate. But as far as the Yankees and the A's, I think it's going to be more of a slugfest. I believe that the A's have to go and they have to punch the Yankees in the mouth, and they're in their home turf, and it's going to be loud, it's going to be crazy, and they got to get that crowd silent quick. And if you're right, and they are hitting, they're hitting jacks early, I think they can do that. And then the pressure, you see the Yankees, it happens all the time. We pay you a lot. We expect to win, especially here. So you can feel it when they start to lose those type of games here. And then with all the pressure of having a win-or-go-home game, I think that's going to be a game for the ages, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the A's are really playing with house money here. No one expected them to do anything really this year, and they've been the hottest team in baseball since mid-June. I mean, it was incredible. At June 13th, they were a 500 team. and they've just really taken off. I think the A's do have a good shot at winning this. Like you said, if they get in there early and they're able to make an impact. And once they get past the first couple innings, depending on what the Yankees have done, I really think the A's have a good shot of using their bullpen to shut down the Yankees hitters. But, I mean, the Yankees bats are just insane. I mean, they've got two of the top 5 home run hitting players in the league. Now, for the National League, I think Colorado is at a disadvantage having to go to LA to play. So I think that will definitely favor the Dodgers. Now, I am selfish, and I want to see the A's and the Dodgers in the World Series. This is the 30th year anniversary of when they met in 1988, that famous Kirk Gibson, pumping of the arm home run. And I'm sorry, Greg Poff, our professor, who's a huge Dodger fan. I want the A's to get some revenge 30 years later, take it all the way. Now, is it going to happen? Hypothetically speaking, I'd love to see it go that way. But yeah, so that's my wish going into the postseason. Now let's change gears a little bit to the NBA. Now, the NBA just started the preseason over the weekend, and there's a lot of hype about the move that LeBron James made going from Cleveland to LA. A lot of people are saying he's the best Laker to ever don purple and gold, which I think is just ridiculous. But Chad, what are your thoughts going into this NBA season?
Anywhere LeBron goes, he's going to be donned the greatness, unless you're from the Bay Area. But you see what he did in Cleveland last year. Kevin Love wasn't, in my opinion, the best or the kind of player that he has been. He took a bunch of people, especially after the trade deadline, and brought that team to yet another finals. I know the East isn't the same as the West in terms of strength of schedule, but I think he's going to go to L.A. and lead a bunch of those young guys, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Caldwell Pope. I think they're going to have maybe not a finals run this year, but I think they'll make the playoffs. I can't remember the last time the Lakers made the playoffs. I can't remember the last time there was so much buzz about the Lakers, probably since Kobe retired.
Yeah.
But I think he'll do a good job with that team. They got the good young coach, Luke Walton, who did a great job with the Warriors in Steve Kerr's absence. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll probably make it to the second round, and it's just too tough in the West. I don't know if LeBron can carry the team in the West like he did in the East.
Nate, what are your thoughts on the Western Conference as a whole? Like, who do you see as being a favorite?
Top 3, you look at Golden State, obviously. No one can stop them. Then second, Houston. I definitely think they can be a powerhouse in the West if they want it to be. OKC, same thing. I think this season will be a lot different for the Thunder, knowing that Carmelo Anthony and Paul George, that sort of scenario at small forward, power forward, is gone now, not happening. So now it's going to be Paul George leading that way at that 3 position, and even the 2 position as well as going into there. But honestly, surprises, in my opinion, would definitely probably be the Jazz. Coming off a strong rookie year, Donovan Mitchell, that was one heck of a campaign. We have not seen that in a while from him. And then you look at the emerging talent of Ricky Rubio. He had one of his best seasons coming from Minnesota to Utah. That was an incredible performance right there. Rudy Gobert, he was out for most of the season. So definitely Utah is definitely going to be a surprise. And then you look at Denver. Michael Porter, their new draft pick. Sure, the back issues have been a problem, but if he can bring that sort of energy that he had in high school and bring that to the NBA, then definitely Denver can be a great team. They just signed Isaiah Thomas with that 1-year deal, so IT can definitely bring sort of that shooting that Denver needs. Jamal Murray is going to be a great point guard for them as well. And then Nikola Jokic, after signing that huge contract extension for 5 years, I definitely think he's going to have a lot to look forward to this season with Denver as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I actually had Donovan Mitchell winning Rookie of the Year last year. Ben Simmons, redshirt Simmons. It just, Donovan Mitchell balled last year.
Definitely.
And he really took his team far when nobody else thought that was even a possibility. So let's take a look at the East. And Brandon, who do you see really kind of coming out of the East and trying to challenge the West?
I mean, if you're looking at last year, now that LeBron is gone in Cleveland, everyone says the same thing. It's all about Boston. They were able to go so close last time against LeBron. Imagine now that he's gone. Now Kyrie gets to be the guy, right? I get to be the guy on my own team. I don't have LeBron's shadow here overcasting me. He's going to really try to stick in there and take over. And then they got that young kid. It's Tatum, I think.
Tatum.
That really put his team on the back last year and pushed hard. And And then, of course, you got Toronto. They got that big acquisition with Leonard going up there, and people are going to see what's going to happen with them. And they're always kind of on a bubble team. But to be honest with you, Steven, I think it's Boston all the way. No one's going to even touch. I mean, you might even have a couple sub-500 teams make the playoffs in the East. They're looking really bleak right now. Yeah. But so I don't think anyone's going to contend with Boston. I think they're going to have an easy skate. And to be honest with you, I think they're going to see the Warriors because look at the Warriors, as you said, you know.
Yeah, no, and I think one thing that's important to point out as far as Boston goes is Kyrie Irving's never played a full season since high school. And yeah, I mean,
they're gonna pray that he's gonna hit that first season this year. I mean, because he has to, especially later on in the playoffs.
You know, and injuries really hurt Boston last year. I think they definitely could have made it to the finals if Gordon Hayward in the first couple minutes of the first game of last year didn't break his leg. Kyrie Irving didn't get hurt. Now, if I'm Boston, I'm like, man, Kyrie, pull a hammy in the beginning of the season. Like,
let's get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way first. So, and we have you at the end, right?
It's similar to in 2015 when the Cavs played the Warriors. You know, he had that patella issue. Then going to the next season, he missed the whole first half. He came back after the All-Star break, and then they made the run in the playoffs. And he should have been the MVP of the finals that year when they beat the Warriors. Shouldn't have been LeBron, in my opinion, but I'm not a LeBron fan, so of course I'm going to go with somebody else.
Steve. Yeah.
So Boston has Gordon Hayward back. They've got Tatum. They've got Kyrie Irving, hopefully for the whole season. Yeah. But there is a move from Kawhi Leonard going to Toronto, which I think is going to be a pretty impactful thing if he's all in it. Like if he came back from the injury, he only played 9 games last year. Depending on what kind of game shape he's in, and if his heart is actually into winning with Toronto, I think they're kind of the number 2 seed and maybe the biggest rival to the Celtics. But I mean, the Celtics look like the powerhouse out of the East. Nate, for this season, it's early. We haven't really seen much. What are your predictions as far as maybe playoffs or shakeups or what you'd like to see?
As far as predictions goes, I'm going to touch back to what Brandon was talking about with the East. Philadelphia. I mean, definitely. We're completely forgetting about them. Philadelphia can definitely be a powerhouse in the East. I mean, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz definitely has been working on that jump shot because, let's be honest, that hasn't been too pretty if you ask me.
Not at all.
But honestly, with Joel Embiid as well, no one can stop Philadelphia in my opinion. They can be a title contender if they wanted to be. If they can stay healthy, they can be a title contender for the East. But overall, in general, for the West, no one's stopping Golden State. I hate to say it, but they're going to repeat as champions if you ask me. Because overall, listen, you got DeMarcus Cousins, you got Draymond Green, you got Kevin Durant, you got Klay Thompson, and you got Steph Curry. Nobody is going to stop that team unless you somehow can bring talent from the 90s and the 80s, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But overall, in general, it's going to be a tough season, but no one's stopping Golden State if you ask me.
Yeah, and it'll be the first time in the history of the league that they're starting 5 All-Stars when Boogie Cousins comes back. Yeah, and it's pretty insane.
It's insane.
And arguably, maybe with the exception of Draymond is on the fence, and I think Klay should be a Hall of Famer, but you're potentially putting out there 4 or 5 Hall of Famers to start for your team. I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to beat that.
And Steven, it's crazy to accumulate those type of players, but it's even crazier to be able to make those type of players on that level all mesh together on the basketball court at the same time. That's what really is astounding with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, and that I think has a huge reason for that is the character of the team. And I'm a really big proponent on character in sports. And a guy that I love to listen to, Damon Bruce on 95.7 The Game, he always closes the show with, sports don't build character, they reveal it. And I think having Boogie Cousins on this team is really going to shape him into the professional that everybody thought he was going to be coming out of Kentucky. And, he has no choice but to behave on this team. I mean, him and Draymond have gotten into it in the past, and honestly, I think Draymond might be able to take him. So you kind of have to, take that in consideration where you're on a team that is established, and you have to fit your role. Otherwise, you're not going to fit at all.
Kind of almost a Patriots mold, where it's like, hey, we know you're kind of a problem child in the league, but if you're sick of bouncing around and having these issues, and you want to win, you need to just follow in line, or else we'll just slide you right out.
Yeah. So, Chad, so what are your kind of predictions going into the NBA season?
I agree with Nate that the Sixers may be able to keep the Celtics from getting to the finals. I could see them taking it to 6 or 7 games, but I still think the Celtics will be the team coming out of the East. They're getting Gordon Hayward back, hopefully at maybe not 100%, especially not mentally, but they're also getting Kyrie Irving back. I know he gets hurt a lot, but I think he'll be able to pull through and play out of the West, unless, barring at least two of those guys on the Warriors get hurt, or James Harden and Chris Paul somehow bring it together. The Warriors are going to win the West.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm in the minority. I don't even know if the Lakers are even going to make the playoffs this year. I just think he's basically moving from Cavs of the East to Cavs of the West. The pieces, everybody's always complained, the Warrior fans have always complained about LeBron fans have always complained about LeBron not having help. And he took All-Stars in Cleveland, and they just didn't play like All-Stars. Now he's taking younger talent and a handful of old veterans that haven't been good in, exception of JaVale McGee, who's good in spurts. Then you got Lance Stevenson, who's always been a problem child. You've got Rajon Rondo.
Especially to LeBron.
Yeah, especially to LeBron. You got Rondo that hasn't been good in 10 years. And then now you got an aging LeBron with a handful of, second-year players. Now, of course, LeBron can make people better, but it's kind of telling that nobody wants to go to LA and play with him. There's a lot of free agents that were out there. Jimmy Butler, for one, could have he's asking for a trade. He could have asked for a trade to LA, but, Kawhi Leonard, as soon as LeBron went to LA, he's like, oh, maybe I'll go to the Clippers. Like, well, why wouldn't you want to go and join up with LeBron and, compete for a title? So I'm actually, in the minority here, but I'm not even 100% sure they're going to make the playoffs. And none of us really know for sure until they start playing games. The season hasn't even started yet. But I can see a lot of dysfunction with these younger players and LeBron, just the way he tries to take over. Chad, you mentioned Luke Walton earlier. Luke Walton is a young coach, and I already think that LeBron is going to try to take over as the coach of this team, kind of like he did with Tyronn Lue. He got Mike Brown fired. He got David Blatt fired. And, as much as Luke is loved in L.A., growing up there, Magic Johnson might fire him. If LeBron doesn't get his way, LeBron might actually pressure that to happening. So, in my view, hypothetically speaking, of course, barring injuries, the Warriors are definitely coming out in the West. Will they take their foot off the pedal and maybe not get the 1 seed? Sure, but they proved last year that they don't need the 1 seed. In the East, definitely, I think Boston is going to be the powerhouse. Everybody's going to have to try to stop them. It'll be interesting to see what happens at Toronto. I agree with you that the 76ers have a chance to really make some noise, but I'm a little concerned about the age and just kind of the locker room atmosphere that they have there. There's been some off-the-court stuff. Joel Embiid loves to be on Twitter and, kind of goof around a lot.
Hurt a lot too.
Yeah, hurt a lot. But being goofy and kind of joking around all the time, especially in social media, I think that can kind of distract from what you're trying to accomplish for the core. But so we're next going to talk about the NFL. It's been an amazing, exciting season so far through 4 weeks. There's been a lot of surprises, a lot of disappointments, but we're going to get to that right after this. Welcome back to Hypothetically Speaking. Now, we're going to talk about the NFL. We're 4 weeks into this season, and it's been ridiculous so far. We're going to start with you, Chad. What are your takeaways so far through four weeks of the NFL?
There's so much to talk about. Surprises, officiating, contract holdouts. Let's go with the officiating and the roughing the passer call. The highest total roughing the passer call before this year was I believe, 21 or 22. In the first 3 weeks of the season, I didn't check after the fourth week, there was already 34 roughing the passer calls. They're putting an emphasis on protecting what they say the quarterback, but what it is the NFL protecting their investment that they've made over the last 20 years or so. It's a passing game now. Quarterbacks are the main factor of trying to get higher TV ratings, scoring more points, and they're putting a huge emphasis on making sure those guys are protected. There's a rule in the book that says there's a strike zone to hit. You're not allowed to hit above the chest level, and beyond that, it doesn't say anything about laying on him, putting your weight on him, nothing of that. And I think the NFL is just getting kind of soft when it comes to officiating and protecting the quarterback.
And there's a lot of judgment that goes into these calls. And in bang plays, I mean, we have the benefit of watching replay if we're at home watching on TV. These refs don't really have that unless, a different call gets challenged or something. That's the only way they can watch these plays back. And, it's a fast game, and it's 10 times faster than college games, and it's always rough to officiate. Nate, what's your kind of thoughts going through the first 4 weeks?
First 4 weeks, I mean, definitely with the Chiefs and Rams both being 4-0, that's a surprise. I didn't expect them both to be 4-0 in my opinion. Sure, I can see people saying the Rams 4-0, but the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, man, you kidding me? Patrick Mahomes has definitely stepped up for the Kansas City Chiefs in my opinion. He's definitely delivered that presence that was lost when Alex Smith was going over to Washington. A lot of people had questions about whether Pat Mahomes can step up, bring that sort of mentality that Alex Smith sort of had with Kansas City, and bring that to Kansas City as well. They're 4-0 now. Look at them. Tyreek Hill is doing great for them along with Kareem Hunt. And just last night, they beat the Denver Broncos in that close game. A lot of times where Mahomes was down under pressure, even towards the end of the game, 3rd and 20. A lot of people said, okay, this game's over. 3rd and 20, went down, 4th and 7, got that converted, went ahead and scored a touchdown, brought that team to victory. So in my opinion, seeing Patrick Mahomes go big for the Kansas City Chiefs to deliver a 4-0 start has definitely been impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Mahomes has been on fire to start this season. And a lot of criticism going into last night's Monday Night Football game was he hasn't played from behind. He hasn't been, pressured the way that, people would like to see him get pressured to see how he responds. And that last scoring drive of the Chiefs last night, I tweeted it out after that left-handed pass of his that if they win this and score on this drive of the season, hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, penalty after penalty. Von Miller was literally on Mahomes' legs. He switched to his offhand and threw for a first down. That's just insane stuff. You don't see that in the NFL almost ever, improvising like that.
Yeah.
There's times where he was rolling out to the right, finding people downfield. It was incredible to watch, and just to see him do that. And my friends and I on Twitter were all joking around, calling him the Steph Curry of the NFL, and a lot of people are like, pump the brakes, it's been 4 games. But I think the reason why they say that is because Pat Mahomes, Patrick's dad, was a major league pitcher for a long time. And so Patrick Mahomes got to grow up around athletes and professionals and kind of see how you get to carry yourself similar to Steph Curry. They also look kind of similar. I think Patrick Mahomes almost looks like Riley Curry, Steph's daughter, or kind of looks like his brother.
I can see it, definitely.
It kind of looked like his brother, Seth Curry, which it's pretty funny. They're both mixed kids. They both, kind of grew up in professional households. And I think that's where the comparison's coming from. Plus, they're really exciting, and they, to watch play. And Patrick Mahomes could technically be changing the NFL if he's able to keep up with this.
He could definitely.
Just like the way Steph Curry changed the NBA.
Guys, listen, guys, I got my ticket to get on the bandwagon. I want to too, but D coordinators around the league are going to get a little something that they haven't had to use against Patrick Mahomes. And you know what that is, fellas? Tape.
Yeah.
Okay? This kid is coming and he's blowing stuff up. Of course, they don't know what this kid can do. Okay, you get these D coordinators, right? They start watching tape. They start seeing tendencies. They start seeing little cues that they can pick up. All of a sudden, I think you see in the middle of the season, Mahomes going to start throwing those, where is he throwing it, picks? They're going to start sending robbers in and hiding and shielding coverages to kind of go against what he does well. Now, don't get me wrong, the kid can run. The kid can run and throw off his back foot from his left hand. I get it, right? But he's human. and there are tendencies there. They just haven't been seen yet. So look, I'm not saying that he's not going to be the next big thing. In fact, my whole thing for this segment was talking about how these quarterbacks with these kind of abilities are learning how to play in the NFL. Coaches are learning how to open up their minds and coach these kids. And now you're going to see a rise in this. You know, the day of you got to be able to drop back. You got to be able to do a 7-step and sling it. You got to be able to check down. Now, these kids can do this, but they can also get out of the pocket, get outside the tackles, and drill the ball 70-plus yards down the field right on the spot. I mean, you're just seeing a different kind of athlete come out, but they're coaching them different. I think you see a change in culture, a shift in coaching. You know, you see, and we're talking about the Rams. And you got Sean McVay, you got the youngest head coach in NFL history, and they're doing successful because, you know, I think understanding the way that this generation is brought up, understanding how to talk to them and coach them, understanding that this old, you know, hey, you're going to do it my way or the highway doesn't work with a lot of players. Now, we mentioned the Patriots earlier, you know, comparing them to the Warriors, but that is a very rare occurrence. So, you know, you're going to see this, but again, I think Mahomes, I think he's going to do great these first, 4 games. I think as you see the middle of the season, when they get to that crunch time, you're going to start seeing mistakes being made. Not saying he's not going to bounce back, but like I said, I got my ticket and I'm holding on to it. I might get on week 6, 7, 8, I don't know, but I'm not quite 100% on the Mahomes bandwagon yet.
So basically, you're saying what the late Denny Green says. They are who
who they thought they were. Exactly.
And you know, I agree on the tape aspect, but if you look at all the weapons that Kansas City has, I mean, Tyreek Hill, which we didn't even mention yet.
Look,
Tyreek
I'm not saying. Look, I get you. I'm not saying
Travis
they can't go. Dude, I'm not saying they're beasts. But look, if the Kansas City Chiefs want to go win 14 games and not make it to the to even their conference finals, then that'll be the Kansas City Chiefs that I thought they were, right? So, you know, these guys could rattle off 14 in a row and then still not make it past the second round of the playoffs because that's what they always do. So until I see a kid take them deep into the playoffs, to the bowl, I'm not going to hop on because this is Andy Reid who always does it. He did it with Alex Smith, you know, so we'll see. We'll see later on.
So to touch a little bit on what he was talking about as far as the change in the game and these young quarterbacks that are mobile, gunslingers, in the spread offense. So spread offense was definitely seen a lot in college, still is, and some success with it in the NFL, but not so much. But now you're seeing these quick receivers, you're seeing these young mobile quarterbacks, and you're definitely seeing a change, like you said, with Sean McVay. Andy Reid's always liked to have a spread out offense with his speedy guys. The Rams are doing a nice spread out for Jared Goff to help make him successful. Nate, what are your kind of thoughts on the direction the NFL is heading?
Well, I mean, just looking at what everyone is doing, they're going to be seeing that with everybody other teams. Another thing with quarterbacks in general, if you look at Baltimore, look at what Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson have been doing. They are sharing the quarterback role right there in Baltimore, and look at them, already off to a good start in my opinion. And that people can say that a lot that might have some questions right there with Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco switching on and off the field, taking time, but I think it's working great if you ask me. I think Lamar Jackson has been definitely a guy that they can trust when coming off for Joe Flacco, and because a lot of people are saying, oh, start Lamar Jackson, but you can't really trust Lamar Jackson just yet. You have to see what Joe Flacco has been doing. Again, he's won a Super Bowl. You're not going to bench him right away. This is not an Eli Manning situation where you can basically bench him after just a terrible performance. Joe Flacco is still a consistent quarterback, and for Lamar Jackson to come in and take Joe Flacco's spot is not happening yet, but if you ask me, it could happen sometime very soon. But with the system that they're running over in Baltimore with Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson switching on and off the field, that's definitely working great if you ask me.
And Chad, what do your overall takeaways as far as the change in these young quarterbacks that are being successful in today's game?
I kind of have to disagree with you on the Patrick Mahomes maybe coming back down to earth a little bit. You're right, Andy Reid is notorious for not winning the big game. He's only been to the Super Bowl once, and he lost it. But if you look at the players he had in Philadelphia and the type of schemes that they ran in Philadelphia, McNabb was I don't want to say great quarterback. He was a good quarterback. He was a very productive quarterback. Alex Smith, throughout his career, has been a productive quarterback. Maybe probably good. He had a good year last year.
Yeah.
But these first 4 games, this Mahomes kid is, I think, a different breed. Some of the throws he makes, and you touched up on their offense. Look at the weapons they have. You got to have someone cover Kelsey underneath.
Yeah.
Someone has to be over the top on Tyreek Hill. That guy's way too fast. They just brought in Sammy Watkins from the Rams, who has not lived up to his potential so far, but he's an explosive wide receiver. Kareem Hunt, the running back who led the league in rushing yards last year as a rookie, is a stud. I don't think I see them slowing down anytime soon. The Rams, they do it on a different level. Mm-hmm. They're a lot more under center. You see Mahomes probably in the shotgun a lot, the spread, but they got the same kind of setup. They have Brandon Cooks going deep. Yeah, they have to respect him over the top. They got 2 or 3 tight ends that they use. They have Cooper Kupp. Mm-hmm. They have Robert Woods, both really good intermediate pass-catching receivers. They have Todd Gurley, who, again,
he's the first guy I mentioned if I was talking about Rams talent.
He can catch the ball.
He's a potential Hall of Famer right
there.
there.
The line up front, my brother and I were talking about it the other day. The Steelers are supposed to have this great offense that, they've obviously underachieved. The Rams, when you watch them play, they don't get negative yards. They're always going forward. Mm-hmm. The Vikings defense was supposed to be great this year. They shredded them. Shredded them for 38 points.
That was definitely a shootout game for sure last week. So you just touched a little bit on the Steelers. I noticed your Steeler hat. What do you think of the Le'Veon Bell holdout?
Well, it makes a whole lot more sense now that Earl Thomas got hurt.
Yeah, I bet he's feeling confident about it now, right?
You can say whatever you want to say about someone who wants to hold out. He's got a point. The Steelers, if they brought him in this year, they'll do the same thing that they've been doing with him. I mean, he was hurt a little bit his rookie year, but years 2, 3, and 4, and 5, he's been a stud. He's been a workhorse, if you will. He's caught more than 67 passes in each of all of his healthy seasons. Mm-hmm. He rushes the ball 300 plus times a game. He's there, and he's what makes them go on offense. Mm-hmm. The Steelers are coming out after the loss that they just had to the Ravens saying, "Oh, we're not on the same page." It's because they don't have to worry about that one extra guy. He's the Todd Gurley of the AFC, and he's patient. The linemen block differently for him.
He's got it all.
I think it's smart that he's holding out. He's losing some money, but he tore his ACL back in 2015. Mm-hmm. He's already injury prone. He was hurt off and on in college with back issues. He wants to cash in. I don't know if it's going to help him. I don't know if he's going to get what he's asking for, but especially, like I said, with Earl Thomas fracturing his leg and being out for the rest of the season, he's not going to make what he could have made, coming off that injury. So more power to him.
Yeah. Nate, what are your thoughts on holdouts and what it means to you to see players do this?
Just looking at holdouts, they're just wanting the money that they deserve, honestly. I mean, you look with talents around the league, they want the money that they deserve. They feel like that they should be getting paid more. So I can totally understand why they're holding out. It's smart. You look at Earl Thomas, what he did, wanted a bigger contract, and then unfortunately shows up to that one game, gets injured. I mean, that's just unfortunate if you ask me, but I can see why players want to hold out to get more money. I can definitely understand it as well. And honestly, I agree with anybody that wants to get paid more in the NFL. If they have the talent, they deserve to get paid more.
You boys, I don't know what you're talking about. These boys, they make so much more. I make $20 an hour at my job working 9 to 5. They should go out and just play ball. No. You know who created this culture of holdout players? It's the NFL itself. How many times you watch Hard Knocks and it's a business, son. I know you've been playing for 10 years. I was just at your house eating birthday cake at your daughter's birthday, but we're going to let you go. Yeah. Hey, it's the business. It's the business. It's the business. Well, hey, guess what, NFL? Guess what, owners? Guess what, head coaches? It's just a business, baby. You got to show them the money. They see one guy get paid. Hey, how come he's getting... I do a better job than him at this, and he's getting paid more than me. How would you feel? Now, the owners can afford it, but they don't want to start doing that because it's a slippery slope. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, like I said, you pay one guy, then this guy wants it, then this guy. You think these owners don't get together and say, "Hey, guys, we can't start. How much are you going to pay this kid? Then I got to pay my quarterback $120 to get for 5 years. Come on, let's keep this cap low." And I think it is owners versus players. And the owners are going to do what they have to do because it's a business. And now the players have learned from the owners and the coaches themselves that this is a business. And I might not be in here very long. What's the 3 years for a running back? It's like the average in the NFL or something like that. I got this much time to make my money, and I need to make as much as I can. It sucks when they're holding out because this is what's tough, and I know it's tough for players, is they're football players. They're on a team. They love their teammates. They want to go out there, and they want to help their team win. So I know it's killing them to sit at home, see their team not doing well, knowing that if I was on the field, we'd be doing a lot better. And that's what I really hate about it, is that tough position that they're in. But I agree with you fellas. You got to look about yourself and watch out for yourself when it comes to this sport, because hey, when it comes down to it, it's a business.
Yeah. And I agree with you that the NFL really created this idea of even holding out, because their contracts aren't guaranteed. You look at the NBA, you look at baseball, all their contracts are guaranteed. So even if they get hurt, they're still getting their game check. Now, the collective bargaining agreement is going to be coming up. Chad, do you think that the idea of these guaranteed contracts, which some of them we've been seeing some guaranteed money, especially with quarterbacks, but do you think that maybe as a whole they'll come together and have some kind of an agreement on some guaranteed money for their contracts moving forward?
No, I don't think so. I think that the owners, it's owners versus not just players. It's owners versus management, owners versus players, owners versus the NFL. They're looking out for themselves. It's a business, and no, I think they do a really good job of making sure that these players get the money that they can get, while also at the same time. Look at Kaepernick, signed that 6-year, 120 something million. He's suing the NFL because of corruption, but it's more than that. He needs money. The guaranteed money that he signed for, it was so his contract worked out. If they cut him after 2 years, he wouldn't get any of that, and he wouldn't get anything that he could have earned beside, or the incentives he could have earned beside or beyond that. No, I don't personally. No, I don't think they'll come to an agreement.
Yes.
I think honestly, I know that the contracts for NBA and baseball are guaranteed. Look how much money those guys are getting. Look at some like Giancarlo Stanton. When he signed that contract with the Miami Marlins, what was it, $325 million over 13 years?
Yeah.
It's the same concept as, I've worked 9 to 5, $20 an hour to work. They're playing a game when it comes down to it. No, I don't think they'll come to an agreement.
So, and hopefully they hire me for this, but I have a great idea for a solution to this problem. And it's not a fully guaranteed contract, but it's a percentage depending on injury. So say I sign a deal for $5 million to play next year in the NFL, and I get hurt. I think if you have a sliding scale to look at how many games and how productive you were, take a look at your numbers, but also take a look at the contract as a whole. So say I get injured in week 6, then I get a percentage of the money that's owed to me through week 7 and week 16. And, be able to take a percentage of that. Not fully guaranteed, not 100%, but if I'm a lineman, and I'm not like a Pro Bowl lineman, and I'm just an average player, and I go down with a knee injury in week 6, then getting say a 40% or a 60% of the remaining contract.
So like an insurance
an insurance plan. So like that way the owners aren't on the hook for the rest of that $5 million. The player doesn't feel like he is getting screwed because he got hurt giving us all on the field. And that way I think it would be an interesting way of solving this problem for everybody, because you mentioned it, players get injured all the time, and to have a guaranteed contract for somebody that's going to be on the sidelines that maybe got hurt in the preseason, it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. But I think if you were able to work it out to where you were able to do a percentage, even if it was a sliding scale, or maybe it's just a set agreed upon percentage of your pay, then at least you're getting something for giving your all on the field. I don't know, what do you think of that, Chad?
Well, I know they don't. I don't know if they do it like that, but when Ryan Shazier broke his back last year in that Monday night game against the Bengals, I know he was prepared for that. He had some kind of insurance plan where he made a certain amount of money just in case he never plays again.
I don't think that was through the NFL.
No, it wasn't, and it definitely wasn't percentage of it definitely wasn't how well you played. It wasn't what the injury was or anything like that. It just, I know he made a lot of money. He's a smart guy for doing it. So I know they have something like that. I know it's not through the NFL, but I know they have something along those lines.
Yeah, and so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get over to projections and hypothetically speaking, what you would like to see this year, and what do you think we're going to see in the NFL, Brandon?
Chad was mentioning the quarterback roughing the passer controversy, and it's funny because that kind of curtails into what we talked about afterwards, which is players getting hurt in their contract, and I'm a little torn on this subject and how we should proceed in the future here. I understand where they're coming from as far as you have to look at the numbers. The quarterback puts himself in a position to get hurt without any knowledge that it's about to happen more than any other player. Now they say, well, the running back, he gets to get some. Yeah, but the running back, he has that ball, he's running, he's prepared, he knows what's going to happen. I think the quarterbacks and the receivers they're protecting, and people are saying, oh, they're protecting them because they want offense and they want 40 to 45 games and da-da-da-da. And I see that point, but I also see the point that receivers are putting their body out there full stretch, and there's nothing they can do to brace for a hit if a helmet comes and shoots them right in the head with helmet-to-helmet contact. So I see why they're doing that. The quarterback, they're back there. This guy's coming around blindside. They have no idea. They can't prepare for the hit at all. And the hit that you don't see coming is the one that hurts the most. So although I know there's a lot of uproar, I don't see them changing the way they officiate these games. I see them sticking to it and making the players just say, hey, you just got to teach them a new way to take them down. And you saw a defensive lineman try to adjust the way he was taking down, and he blew his ACL, so you're going to hear people on that side. But honestly, I think the NFL is pretty stickler with this, and I think it definitely does have to do with, let's put up offense, because people watch games that have offense. We want to see offense. But I also think it has to do with the fact that, again, the owners get together and they say, look, I just paid $120 million for this guy. Can we, NFL, can we make sure that this guy doesn't get hurt and I don't have him for a whole season? So although I think there's going to be a lot of hissing and moaning over the course of the season, I think that, you're going to see the consistent calling the same way throughout the season. And in between, maybe they'll mix it up, but I think they're going to call it the whole way to the Super Bowl here. And then, we're talking about the year of the quarterback. Like I said, I see slumps. I see slumps with these quarterbacks that are doing good things. Another good quarterback that's mobile is Trubisky out of Chicago. He's looking real good. And this is kind of his second year he's getting into it. But I see slumps for all these quarterbacks, but I see them coming strong at the end of the year. I see the Chiefs doing well going into the playoffs. Again, are you going to go beat the Patriots in Foxborough, or, are they going to come play you there? That's going to be big. Mahomes seems like he's groomed. But you seem like, you don't know till you get there. Mm-hmm. When you're sitting there and it's, we saw him in the game against Denver, I know, but, Denver is not that team anymore, mm-hmm. Okay? So when they start to whittle down and get to that team, we'll see what happens with these young mobile quarterbacks. I think the defense is going to get tape. I think you're going to see a slump from these guys, Trubisky, Mahomes. I think they're going to come back later, especially because they have defense as far as Chicago is concerned. But yeah, as far as, who's going to get deep, that's tough. I do like the Bears in the NFC. They're looking really good. I'm surprised by that. The Bucs were looking good early with Fitzpatrick. I'm interested to see. I think Winston comes back. I think he's learned his lesson. I think those two games where Fitzpatrick did really well kind of scared him a little bit. Mm-hmm. I saw he put out a tweet that said, "Good game, fellas." Someone said it was an awkwardly sad tweet, like he's at home like, "Good game, guys." Like, you guys look like you're having fun, right? So I think Winston has matured a lot from this little suspension, and I think, looking at what Fitzpatrick did with the Bucs, if Jameis Winston with his ability comes back and now he's matured a little bit, I'm interested to see what the Bucs can do. The Patriots, everyone was freaking out like they always do, and then they go, and then the Dolphins, oh my God, and then you see what happens. Yeah. I feel so bad for the Dolphins because they can't beat the freaking Patriots no matter what they do. They came in with a head of steam. They're like, this is the year, and not only did the Patriots beat them, but they stomped the lights out.
Even non-Super Bowl winning Dan Marino is not going to come back and save
yeah, no one's saving there, okay? But I think, I think the Chiefs are going to do it. I don't know if they're going to take the whole thing, but I think they're going farther than they have in the last however many years with Andy Reid, and I think they're going to get far. They might hit the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to win it, but I think, yeah, Chiefs, and I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Nate, so kind of your playoff predictions and your forecasting going into the playoffs. I know it's only week 4, or just just after week 4, but who do you see maybe the matchups in the NFC championships and also the Super Bowl?
For the NFC, it's, again, with 4 weeks in, it is kind of tough to call right now. I mean, seeing all the teams right now. But honestly, I think Jared Goff has definitely proven himself to be the quarterback right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, like I said before, Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback, but I still think Jared Goff has definitely proven that he is the quarterback to beat right now. And I definitely see the Rams going into that NFC Championship as the winner, if you had to ask me. Mm-hmm. And then touching what you were saying about the Buccaneers with Ryan Fitzpatrick, they announced that Jameis Winston is now going to be their starting quarterback. So it will be interesting to see how the Buccaneers will play out there in Tampa Bay. But overall, for Super Bowl, you know, if the Chiefs can keep it up, they can meet with the Rams if they want to. So it'd be quite interesting.
That'd be a great
to see.
Super Bowl, wouldn't it? It would be a great
definitely
game.
Yeah, so it definitely will be interesting to see if the Chiefs and Rams go at it. But again, you got to look at Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Getting Josh Gordon, newest wide receiver, that's going to be interesting to see how that pans out with the New England Patriots. So that'll be interesting in my opinion.
Yeah. And Chad, what do you kind of think, even though after 4 weeks, what the playoff picture is going to look like?
As all you guys said, the Los Angeles Rams, their defense has been a little suspect, especially since Aqib Talib just got put on injured reserve, along with Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters is out for a couple weeks with the ankle injury, but their secondary's kind of struggled a little bit. But I think with that offense, they can get there. The Eagles are a team you can't give up on. Carson Wentz, they won. They came back, or they actually lost this last weekend to the Titans in an overtime game in Tennessee. Carson Wentz, it was his second game back, and he struggled a little bit, but I think that's more of a mental thing, as you saw last year. All the physical tools are there. He's an excellent quarterback. The Saints are a team who can make it to the Super Bowl, I think. They got a high-powered offense. Their defense has definitely been suspect to start the year. But
that's the Saints, baby.
But look at them last year. I mean, their defense was amazing. I think maybe they're just not in sync right now. Maybe one guy is missing his zone, one guy is not covering the right man. The AFC side of things, the Patriots are always in play. The Bengals, remember they lost to the Chiefs 3 years ago, and they were 1-2, and there was Bill Belichick's, we're off to Cincinnati. They came back, won the Super Bowl that year, or made it to the Super Bowl that year. But another team, the Chiefs, but the Jaguars. When Blake Bortles has a good game, that team is almost impossible. They should have beat the Patriots last year in the championship game. I don't know why the Patriots get that lucky fumble, with 3 minutes left when they're just trying to run out the clock. But they played in Jacksonville this year, and they smashed the Patriots.
Yeah.
I think it was 28-17 was the final score, but a couple last-second touchdowns. I think they're a team to definitely watch.
And their defense is legit.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, really.
Yeah. So I'm big on hot takes. But my hot takes are usually founded in some facts and some research and some knowledge of how things go. Before week 1 started this year, I'm on record as saying that I don't think the Patriots are going to make the playoffs. Ooh. And through the first couple weeks, it was looking like a pretty good thing. But now that they're getting Josh Gordon, looks like their offense is starting to settle down a little bit.
Not to mention Edelman's coming back.
Yeah, Edelman's coming back, you're right. But if you've noticed, their teams are taking Gronk out of the equation. Gronk, I don't think, is going to be a huge factor this year, and Gronk's always been kind of a crutch for Tom Brady. Like that's his last-minute go-to big play guy who, kind of like Travis Kelce, is just bigger and stronger than everybody, but he's starting to wear down. And I believe Father Time, who has been undefeated ever since, and Tom Brady, he's 40 years old. Like, he's not going to be able to keep up his Hall of Fame play for forever. And I hear my cameraman scoffing at me right now. Nobody thought Jordan was going to go down either. Jordan went down, and he fought it to the very end with the Wizards and still put up good numbers, but there's no way he was a championship caliber player once Father Time got a hold of him. As far as playoff predictions, I think the Rams are legit, and I think when their defensive secondary comes back from injury, their defense only has to keep people to 21 points because Jared Goff's going to get you 28, if not more, 31. And so I definitely think that they're a legit contender. Patrick Mahomes, if they can get their defense to really, even play half as well as their offense, then they're going to be a force in the AFC.
Because that was definitely an issue. Yeah. Many people were saying going into the season with Kansas City's defense, that has to be changed automatically if they want to be a contender in the NFL.
Yeah, but similar to what Goff is doing in LA, if they can hold a team to 21 points,
definitely,
that offense is definitely going to outscore them, which, tying it back into the rules changes, the high-powered offenses we're seeing. I think we've got, 16 quarterbacks on pace for 4,000 yards, which is unprecedented. We're seeing what these young guns can do. I've been big on Goff since he was at Cal. Even his rookie season, everybody was down on him. I'm like, he's just a rookie. Like, look at the system, look at the coaches. He's struggling, but they've got Gurley in place too, and now he's comfortable. He's he's definitely establishing himself, and his footwork and everything in the pocket. Like, he definitely looks more like a veteran quarterback than a third-year player. And yeah, so hypothetically speaking, going into this season, you know, seeing what these predictions are, kind of touching on the NBA, Major League Baseball for the wild card games, I think we pretty much summed it up for this show today. So for Solano College Sports Network and the show Hypothetically Speaking, I'm your host, Stephen Babb, and for Brandon Kyle, Nate McKay, and Chad Core, tune in next time.
The exponential growth from the program from my first year to my third year now, that's what keeps me coming back and keeps me excited and just like fulfills me as a person.
It's so impressive, and we every time we walk in here, you guys are doing something different. It's great. It's
nothing but opportunities here, and we have sports to cover, we have the equipment.
Because the more ambitious you are, the more opportunities you'll have.
On-the-job training is huge.
Get the hands-on experience.
When someone asks who can do it, you know, you can raise your hand and say, I can do it. So
joining the class was the best decision I ever made.
I'm going to go to cut one. And cut one.
Cross court to Audrey Jones. Audrey for three. And it's good! With 1.3 seconds left on the game clock. Audrey Jones with one of the biggest shots.
the sky's the limit, really, with what we can do here.